Okay, this little video is going to be about the orchestra in our amazing brain. So this is a continuation of our pain series, and pain is a protective mechanism. If we did not have pain, we'd all be dead. Pain is there to protect us, to help us make good choices, to keep us alive, keep us on the right path. Sometimes the brain misinterprets pain and it over protects us. This is especially true in chronic pain. So in chronic pain, the whole nervous, endocrine, system, immune system becomes overprotective of our bodies, and most of the time in chronic pain, the tissues have already healed up and there's no danger, or at least there's not as much danger as the brain thinks there is. Anyway, so this is about the brain, and overall the brain is in charge of the rest of the systems in the body, but it can't change the systems overnight. It takes a little bit of work. So there's an illustration about the orchestra in the brain. So this is just a analogy or an illustration. So pretend that we have an orchestra in our brain with a whole bunch of talented musicians, and they can play all kinds of tunes. They can play happy tunes, relaxation tunes, get going tunes, peaceful tunes, pain tunes, purpose tunes, helping others tunes, all kinds of tunes. And this takes practice. The brain orchestra has to learn how to do all these things. But with chronic pain, what happens is the orchestra for pain just keeps playing more and more, and the other players that play other tunes, they kind of forget how to play their other tunes, or maybe drop out altogether, and pretty soon the brain, all it can play is a pain tune, and that's not really very healthy, because life is not about pain. Well, it shouldn't be anyway. So how do we deal with that? Teaching our brains other tunes. And we know that this is possible. One way I do it is by getting out in nature, going for walks. And if you're out here looking at nature, it's easy to get your orchestra playing the beauty tune, and also exercise. I think there's an exercise tune the body learns how to play, and it just enjoys being out in nature and exercising. But we know that, and you can see it in your own example, if you're thinking of someone in high school, you can't think of his name, and you think you're getting old because you can't think of his name. But what I do is I start thinking of high school and some of the things that we used to do, playing basketball, and the more I think of those times, the more things I remember, and pretty soon I can remember this guy's name and his girlfriend and other things. And so what happens is when you start going into the file system where the memories are, and you start pulling up certain memories, then you pull up other things that are kind of associated with it. The brain keeps track of memories in an organized way. And the same way as with sadness or pain or depression, if you start thinking of bad thoughts or sad times in your life, then more of those tend to come up. And pretty soon you can think of all kinds of sad things. And if you start thinking of happy times, then those tend to come up and you start thinking more of happy times. So we have a lot of control over our orchestra in our brain. I like to think of it like a patch of roses, a rose garden. So roses are beautiful, but they have thorns. So when you walk through a patch of roses, you got to be careful not to poke yourself on the thorns. But on the other hand, they have beautiful roses. So your orchestra can focus on the roses and just say, wow, this is a beautiful patch of roses, and I'm just loving these things, and play the beauty tune, and not focus on the thorns, because you focus on the thorns and life becomes thorny. But that doesn't mean you should ignore the thorns. If you totally ignore the thorns, then that's not a real situation. You're going to end up poking yourself, and you can say, well, I wish I would have remembered there's a thorn here. So don't ignore the dangers. Don't ignore the bad things. But put things in perspective and realize that, yeah, roses have thorns, but I've learned how to stay away from them. I learned that I just walk down the trail here, I won't get poked. And then once you've learned where to walk, then you don't really need to think about the thorns anymore. But you can just look at the roses, beautiful roses. So how can we develop our brain orchestra to play other tunes? The one thing I didn't mention is the purpose tune, or doing good to others. There's a famous saying that it's more blessed to give than to receive. And I've definitely found this to be true in my life. And we know that if you don't have a purpose in life, then life can be meaningless. And so trying to figure out ways to help others and being a blessing to others is a wonderful tune to practice on. And then you'll get some of the focus off the orchestra that only plays pain. So I hope your brain plays some beautiful music in the next few days here, and that we all learn to play beautiful music.